Where did I said those? Everyone good?
Yep.
Sir. Okay. Oh, well, I'm going to live dangerously and start at 5:58. Good evening, Council. Today is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. It is, excuse me, thank you. It is 5:59, and I will call this meeting, regular meeting of the Barre City Council to order. First item on the agenda, Council, is the adjustments to and approval of the agenda. Because it just came to my attention, thank you, Councilor Spaulding, that the warrants were not included in the councilor's packet. I had them because I signed them, but they were not distributed to the entire council. So I'm doing that now. We're passing those around so you have the opportunity to look at those. So I'm going to pull that off of the consent agenda, and I'm going to move that down to item 8E on the agenda so that you have ample time to look at those. Any other adjustments to the agenda, Mr. Manager or City Council?
None for me, Mayor.
Okay, anything? Yes.
I did send out that interim
Yeah.
policy. Is it something we want to just approve tonight, or do we need to add it to the agenda next week?
Well, could we, if there's no objection, we could add that under 8F to the agenda? I just had some concerns about that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, a friendly amendment possibly, since the chief is here to talk about his budget. I
Okay.
was wondering if we might do it before or after
Sure.
the budget presentation.
Why don't we do that? Okay, I'll put that under 8A, and I'll slide everything else down. Is that okay?
Thank you,
Okay.
appreciate that.
Nope, not at all. Any other adjustments, council? Hearing none, a motion to approve the agenda as amended would be in order.
So moved.
Thank you. And
Second.
moved and seconded. Is there any, do I need to call those out for Cheryl? Cheryl, can you hear that okay? Oh, okay, motion was made, I believe, by,
I think it was Deering and
Yes.
Hildarder.
yes, okay, okay. If you want me to call those out, Cheryl, I'm happy to do, matter of fact, I will do that. Thank you very
Thank you, I
much.
appreciate it.
Not at all. Any other discussion, council? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, thank you very much. Under visitors and communications, is there anyone wishing to address the council regarding an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, hearing and seeing no one, we will move on to the consent agenda. Council, you will be approving the minutes from the meeting of 1/27/26. I don't, Cheryl, did you have any licenses and permits that we had to add under the consent agenda, or were they all under liquor control?
I just had one under liquor.
Right, but only one under liquor, none
Correct.
under, okay, none under the consent agenda. You'll be approving the PVR Form 4155, which I believe you have all executed, and you will be authorizing the manager to execute contracts. I don't believe, do you have any
No,
contracts
no
this week?
contracts.
There are no contracts this week. A motion would be in order?
So moved.
Moved by Bergeron
Second.
and seconded by Councilor Deering. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you very much. Since we moved the approval of the city warrants to item 8E on the agenda, it's time for the city clerk's report.
No
Sure.
report.
She said there wasn't, in
I'm
the
sorry?
email, she
There's no
said there's
report.
some.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I missed that memo as well. I apologize. So under Liquor and Cannabis Control Board, Council, they are in session, and we have one item before us. I believe that was a Barre Social Club, and it was a first-class liquor license that has received the appropriate approval. Is there a motion, please?
Moved.
I'm not even going to try to guess at that one. So I believe the motion was made by Councilor Guston, seconded by Councilor Spaulding. Is there any discussion, Council? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Liquor and Cannabis Control Board is adjourned. Trying to stall as you're texting frantically.
I was looking,
Yeah, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I was looking for our Jedi B committee member who I don't see on and I don't see here, and I'm wondering if there was a maybe a scheduling issue, but I will. That's what I was trying to get in contact with. But thank you. Let me pull up the updates for the council. So budget survey closed last week. We had unfortunately only 191 responses, which is way down from last year. We will have the results for you next week at next council's meeting. And so looking forward to hearing what residents had and sharing that with the council as we continue budget deliberations. Two, from the BOR update, I mentioned last week we were starting skate rentals this past weekend. We did. We had 2 rentals on Sunday, so very excited to bring that service back to the BOR. We have a range of children's sizes for at the BOR now. We're still accepting some donations if people have gently used skates. $3 per rental. So very, very excited. I know we hear a couple times every season about people who aren't able to skate because they don't have skates, and now we're able to make it available to those folks. Want to just sort of give kudos to DPW crews for a really difficult couple of weeks of work. They've been doing snow removal throughout the city. We had an overnight parking ban for snow removal yesterday. They continued that today. If you get your regroup messages, you saw that they worked on several water leaks over the weekend. Very, very long hours for that crew. So just kudos to the teams that have been out working to get snow removed and to fix these leaks. This is a real difficult time of year for them. They work in really difficult conditions. One item also on the DPW side, we had unfortunately an injury for a worker who slipped on heavy ice, stepping out of the Bobcat to remove a trash can that had been left in the sidewalk while he was doing his plow route. So really encourage people, if you have a city sidewalk, to keep your garbage cans this time of year on your driveway. Don't keep them in the street. That's no good either. Don't keep them in the sidewalk if you want it plowed, timely manner. And certainly, we lost an employee for a couple weeks due to an injury because of that. So just keep those clear, those sidewalks clear, keep those streets clear, so our crews can do their job and do it safely. The overnight warming shelter has been going for close to 2 weeks straight. They are open tonight. They're going to close Wednesday night and Thursday night, and they will reopen Friday. They'll be open from Friday, February 6th through Tuesday morning, February 10th. They do need volunteers. This is a volunteer run, the city coordinated but volunteer run shelter. So Tess is looking for volunteers to take shifts every night that they're going to be open at the end of the week. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night. The shifts for people who are interested there's 3 of them, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., and 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. So if you are interested in helping, we encourage you to reach out to Tess Taylor. Her number is 802-522-7818. They are also accepting meal donations, and if you're interested in donating a meal, you have to prepare a meal for 15, which is the 12 guests plus the 3 volunteers. They serve the meal right around 7 p.m. So again, if you're interested in helping keep this shelter operating, please contact Tess. And then another longer update for the council. I emailed you about this earlier this week, but want to make sure members of the public were aware as we work on our CDBG round 2 applications. So the hearing is coming up next week here at the council for the applications. The applications themselves are due February 27th. As we've mentioned, we have two applications that we're submitting for round two, and this is a split of the North End Gateway projects. One application is the buyouts and the elevations. The other application is the acquisitions, and that was based on feedback that we received after our first round application. We received some additional guidance from the state about the elevations that we were applying for. This is, somewhat concerning guidance in terms of what it will mean for our projects, and unfortunately has led to several property owners backing out of the elevations. And basically, the guidance, we had a question from an applicant about what would happen if they chose to sell their property after the grant was completed. And what we heard back is that basically, I'm going to summarize, any sale of a multifamily rental that is elevated with these funds that occurs within 5 years would require ACCD approval. That any multifamily rental that is elevated with these funds must remain a multifamily rental with affordable rents for a period of 20 years, regardless of ownership. That sale of a property that's elevated with CDBGDR within 20 years of the grant closeout, which could actually be 25 years from today, would generate what's called program income that must be returned to ACCD. And I'll give an example of that in a second. But basically, the amount recovered would depend on how much the percentage of the total project cost that the elevation investment represents. And then finally, any sale beyond the 20-year period would still be considered program income, and ACCD may allow the city to retain any of those funds. So what this practically means with a numerical example is if a property is worth $150,000 today, if they get a $300,000 elevation grant through CDBGDR, and 10 years from today, that property sells for $275,000. If ACCD contributed all of that elevation grant, all of those $300,000, which in this case they would because we're not throwing in any outside money, ACCD would recover 100% of those sale proceeds. And so that was pretty jarring for some people who had.
Excuse me, that's a question. Shouldn't it be based on what the value of the property was before it needed elevation, not current now? Because I'm sure I'm just looking up the homeowner, it's going to be worth a lot less now than it was before the elevation.
That may be what it should be based on, but that's not what ACCD said it will be based on.
Okay.
So, and then we had a different sort of scenario. If a home is worth $200,000 now and they received the same $300,000 elevation grant, and ACCD contributed only $150,000 of that, and the home sold for $600,000 in 10 years, ACCD would have contributed 50% of the project costs and would recover 50% of the sale price, so about $300,000. So
I agree with that.
It is for people who heard this, who own properties in the North End and who were looking at elevations, that was pretty concerning. And so we had, if you remember from our first round, we had 9 elevations. 7 have already backed out. So we're down to 2 elevations. And so that's really sort of limiting the scale of our project. For the other parts of the North End project, it doesn't really impact it, right? A buyout, they're walking away from the property anyway, right? So it doesn't matter what happens it's going to be gone. It's going to be floodplain.
Level.
If it's an acquisition, if we're lucky to get that funded, also the property owners don't care because they're selling it, right? They could care less what happens afterwards. So it's really just on the elevation piece where this is a problem, because those property owners are planning to, they're trying to make an investment in their property to keep it safe from flooding. They're not necessarily, especially, many of these are multifamily rental properties. They may not be wanting to be tied down to that for 20 years, right? And if they do sell within 20 years, and the grant being that large, it really sort of hurts the equity that they've built into their home. So frankly, I don't blame people who are having second thoughts and backing away, but it really does. Just wanted to let the council know that it has significantly reduced the scope of that part of the project. And it may depend, I know one person has said that they're interested in proceeding. So we'll have at least one elevation, but it may be down to just that. because it's a lot, right? It's hard to, seeing these numbers is pretty concerning, and we're asking people to make sort of a 20-year decision
Right.
today, and that's not easy, so.
And how long do they have until we submit the grant, obviously?
We have to have a pretty good sense by when we do the hearing, so they really don't have that much time, and that's why I reached out to everybody at the end of last week, and
I mean, concerns on several levels.
Reappraisal.
To make
that's one.
the math easier, if everyone agrees that a property is worth $150,000 today, if it's flood damaged or flood compromised, and ACCD is going to invest $150,000, I'll just make the math real easy. So $150,000 value, $150,000 to elevate the property. ACCD and the homeowner each have a, so to speak, 50% share in the overall investment. And yet ACCD is coming back and saying, we want 100% of the sales proceeds in some cases. You know, why couldn't it just be a simple pro rata formula? It seems like that would make the most sense.
in that case, it may, the scenario where, we're looking at most properties down there that we're looking at, the grants are going to be between $300,000 to $400,000 each.
They'll be
right?
significant.
Significant. And most of the property values there are below that, right? And so the issue now is that because the values are low and because we're throwing so much added value, the grant value is basically almost doubling it. That's why most people the math is not working in their favor when the sale happens, right? So if,
Right.
And that's the problem. It's an issue of low value today, high grant value added, and for them to overcome the value of the grant even in 10 years is really difficult, right? And so
Where does reappraisal come into this, though?
it'll help them a little bit, but not exceedingly, because it's not going to overcome basically the value of doubling. The grant will more than double most of these properties' values, right? Or what's invested in them.
Yes.
I think the part I'm stuck on is why they're considering a sale program income at all. This is a grant. I understand that there's a larger concept of investment and whatnot, but this is a grant to do activities, not framed as an investment or even a
Or a loan.
partnership or anything like that. It's bizarre to me that they would come along 10 years later and say, I know you just sold your house, but we're taking all of the money.
Yeah.
And that's the part. I'm not unfamiliar with program income and their definition of program. Nicholas and I have had those discussions as we've evaluated the project. So it's not something I'm unfamiliar with, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. But what I do disagree with is that generally, in my world, if two partners each have a 50% investment, they share 50% in any proceeds and 50% in any losses. So, again, I could understand that formula, because I wouldn't feel very good if someone who owned an investment property versus a single-family residence received $300,000 and then 2 years later sold that property and pocketed that $300,000 when it could have gone. Honestly, I love a good grant, but I wouldn't feel good about that.
Yeah.
And I don't think the state wants to feel good about, they don't want to feel that way either. But again, their formula just doesn't make sense. To say to a homeowner, okay, because we put $300,000, into your home, and granted, your home was worth $100,000 when we came up with our $300,000, they're giving them nothing. They're not even giving them the 25% that they brought to the table, and that's where I certainly intend to push back. Yeah, of course.
And the other piece, I think that's really important in the way ACCD communicated this to us, is that their agreement is with the city. Their agreement is not with the property owner. So when they recover the money, they're coming to us to pay that check, right? And so I've now had to involve the city attorney about how do we do covenants, how do we do deed restrictions, how do we make sure that if somebody moves forward with this and they sell their house And they understand the stakes, but they know that if they sell it within this period and they have to pay a pretty sizable check to ACCD, that it's coming out of their proceeds, not city coffers, right? Because that's the risk to the city is also that somebody walks away and ACCD doesn't care about that. They're going to come asking us for the money. So there is an element, not just an element of risk to the homeowner now of figuring out, do they want to roll the dice and lose all the equity in their home possibly, but it's also, is the city comfortable that if this property does sell within that time and ACCD comes knocking on our door, that we're going to be able to turn over a check, right? And so that's a big part of it too, right? That I don't want to get lost in all of this. It's a roll of the dice for both the homeowner and the city in a way.
This is a mess.
Yep.
Well, as you're talking, I'm thinking through all the different scenarios. You mentioned the word equity. What about the homeowner who doesn't really have any equity because of the flooding? They have a $100,000 mortgage. Their home is worth $100,000. They don't have any equity. The mortgage is theirs. I mean, I would absolutely argue that point. The mortgage is their liability, but they're still bringing $100,000 in value. So even if they sold that property for double the initial investment, ACCD and the homeowner wouldn't even receive enough money to pay off their mortgage. And in order to receive, as you're talking about the city attorney, I already know what the city attorney is going to say. He's going to say you have to get the bank to subordinate in order to invest this money. The bank has to subordinate to ACCD. So now you want the bank's $100,000 mortgage to be subordinate to ACCD. The bank is going to say, no, I would. And, and where does that leave? So
They need a formula.
I'm not disrespecting anybody at ACCD. They are wonderful, wonderful working partners, but I don't know that they've really fully considered all of the scenarios that exist here in Barre City.
I mean, for a $300,000 elevation, like how many homes in the entirety of Barre City are worth more than $300,000? And how many of them are in the North End and likely that? I mean, you could also conceivably be paying out your 25 years, 30-year mortgage to the end of it and still not get any of it back. You've just been putting money into a hole for that time if you sell
Back in the
it.
70s, HUD started a program like that with people to get a house, but they sold it in the first 10, 15 years. They had to pay a percentage back. It was
Correct,
a formula.
it was a percentage.
That's what they need to do.
Right. And so we'll stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think they're trying to discourage the elevations because of the value of the property or the low value of the properties? Would they rather do buyouts? Is that what this is?
I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily use the word discourage. I think they're looking at all possibilities, and I think what they're concerned about is these are grant funds, I understand that, but the way I've always thought about grants, when the city gets them, I always feel an incredible obligation when we receive a grant and Montpelier doesn't, or another community. I always feel this obligation to do the best we can with this money, and I'm sure ACCD feels the same obligation. So I think they're trying to, I'm guessing they're trying to think through every scenario, and I think the scenario they're a little stuck on is, well, wait a minute, this person doesn't have any options now. We're going to give them options. We're going to make an incredible investment, and then they're just going to cash out 5 years. I understand that concern. I agree with it, but I think the way they've structured the formula it seems a little discouraging. I wouldn't use that word yet, but I was pretty discouraged when I got the manager's email. Because trying to figure out a workaround, and again, the only workaround I can think of is to appeal to ACCD and say, look, it should be on a pro rata basis. If you got a 50-50 partner, you get 50% of the money. And you bear the risk of 50% of the loss as well. So, stay tuned. Yep. What else you got, now that you ruined Valentine's Day?
That was all.
Already started that.
Hey, you ruined my, no, it's all, you're doing good work, Nicholas, and I know we'll get together in the coming days and we'll strategize, and, like I said, ACCD has been, they were quick to understand when they put the condition on and said, hey, you need to have a lead developer by the end of March. And we said, well, you know, and we pushed back and said, well, no, and this is why, and this is what we'd like to do. You know, they made an exception. So I think this is I hope this is a long way from over. Any other questions for the manager?
There's someone waiting to get in.
Oh, that might be
Is that
Aurora.
maybe? I hope, I don't know. I think I may have,
Zoom user.
Boot her out or something?
no, I think I may have not confirmed the date with her, which is my fault, but.
Yes.
Just ask a brief follow-up.
Whenever it says Zoom user.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
man.
saw it too.
It's never good.
May I ask just a brief date follow-up question, Manager?
Of course you
had-
can.
Manager, you had mentioned the hearing is on February 17th, but we don't currently have a meeting on that date. We have it on the 10th?
I'm sorry, the hearing is on the 10th.
Thank you.
Yes, I may have
Okay.
misspoken. It's on the 10th, and the applications are due the 27th.
Okay, I had just confirmed something else on the
Perfect.
17th, so I was having a little bit of a,
Perfect.
okay, good.
So, yeah, we meet on the 10th. We are not.
Yep, that's what I
Yep.
thought, and I just wanted to verbally confirm it while I was
No
here.
worries, no worries. Okay, council, if there's no objection, no other questions for the city manager, we will move on to new business. I'm going to just hold 8A in case Aurora joins us. If Aurora does not, you know, with
Bring it next week.
apologies, we'll just do that next week if that's okay. Unless, like I said, I don't know Aurora, but hey, I'm open to anything. I think next week will be fine. I don't think there's even a meeting scheduled, is there?
Next Thursday.
There's one?
10th.
Oh,
Next Thursday.
No, for
the
the,
agenda B committee?
Oh, next Thursday. So we would get it in
Yeah,
time.
we'd get in.
yeah, so,
You're so good.
so nobody's going to miss any meetings. Okay, awesome. We'll make sure that gets, do we have? You do have Aurora's email
I
address,
do,
right?
yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
let her know.
Awesome. Okay, council, item 8B on the agenda is to approve the Parks and Rec Committee charge. Hi.
Chair and Vice Chair.
Oh, okay.
Rodaline and Joshua?
You want to take,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Fantastic, thank you.
Great. So Nicholas, I think you submitted this in the packet, right? Should I put it
Yes.
on the screen or?
Yeah, let me see if I can give you. You should be able to share.
I might have to turn my video off because I'm having some connectivity issues here. So let me share screen. See that?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I am not going to read all of this, but I just wanted to mention that you guys are able to see some similarities with your city council strategic plan. So and I think they align with your priorities and your goals. So as we reinvigorate the Barre City Parks and Rec committee, I thought it would be good to have a mission, vision, statement, values, just kind of as a jumping point. So I showed the committee two options, and we worked together to combine the two. So this is what we've come up with. So tonight we're asking for your approval and adoption of this proposed mission, vision, values statement. So I just want to say that the statements are more than just words on this page. It gives the committee a clear sense of direction and help us guide on decision making, long-term planning, and how we're showing up for the community. But also, it also helps the residents understand what their Parks and Rec committee is here to do. And again, what they can expect from us as a committee. So the mission is really about what we're doing through our events and the involvement with the community. We're focusing on enriching lives, empowering the Barre residents, and providing safe, welcoming parks, open spaces, recreation program. So we highlighted support health, community connection, and lifelong enjoyment. So the core is really, we're recognizing that the Parks and Rec Committee as an essential part of, helping with the quality of life here in Barre. And the vision statement is kind of a look ahead, so we're describing the type of community that we're working towards. It's a vibrant. Sorry, I got that wrong. So sustainable, where everyone has access to quality spaces. Sorry, my phone is ringing. Something that's really important to me is the building relationships that reflect the heart and pride and resiliency of our city. For us now and today and for generations to come. And then the values, just outlining how we're serving the community and how we're going to accomplish the things that we want to focus on. So it's we're doing a lot of we want to promote community inclusion, health and wellness, community engagement, especially, and partnership with local organizations, which I see, we really have shared goals. So that's what I have. Josh, did you want to add anything else?
Thank you. Any questions, council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I might add, as the council liaison to Parks and Rec, these individuals did a wonderful job bringing this to fruition. They really put a lot of dedicated stuff into it. Talked about things. They did some research, as you can see with Rhoda Wayne's presentation, talking about the strategic plan. Really got a good group of people in the Parks and Rec group. And so I just really look forward to continuing to work with them and to see the work they're going to continue to do for our city.
Thank you. A motion would be in order, council?
So, second.
It's moved by Councilor Bergeron, seconded by Councilor Deering to approve the Parks and Rec Committee charge as presented. Is there any discussion? Yes.
I just have one final, I think this is a really superbly written and envisioned mission and vision and charge, and I think it should be a model for other committees, so really well done.
Ditto. Any other? Yes.
I have one small grammatical thing that drives me a little bit crazy, so I'm hoping you'll bear with me. In the first line of the mission, it says to enrich the lives and empower Barre City residents by providing safe, welcoming parks, open spaces, and recreation program. So I think it should be either a recreation program or recreation programs.
Yep. Yep.
So,
We actually did that on purpose to make sure you guys are reading it.
okay, well, I hope I get a gold star then or something.
Congratulations.
I love it. Thank you so much for making that one small change. And yeah, it's fantastic.
So I assume there's no objection from the committee. We will be pluralizing recreation
Thank you.
programs. Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? Thank you again, folks.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Well done.
Council, we're at 8C on the agenda. This is the fiscal year 27 budget. We are looking at the departments, DPW, Police Department, and Fire Department.
Perfect. So why don't, Chiefs and Christina, if you want to come on up. It's next week.
Too much glare up here.
Okay. So tonight we're continuing department reviews. Let me see, I have. Miss Copping, gotta let Miss Copping in. So yeah, tonight we're continuing our department reviews with the public safety divisions at the police department and fire and emergency medical services department. So police department broadly consists of police services, which is what you consider your traditional, most people think of, right, with the police department. This is patrol, investigations, community outreach through Brooke. And we have the Emergency Communications Center, which is a fancy way of saying dispatch. And of course, Dee and John, who do the meters enforcement. That is also within the police department. On the fire and emergency medical services department side, of course, our firefighters and EMTs, code enforcement is also in fire department, as well as technically our emergency management is contained within fire as well. Next slide. Maybe. There we go. The org chart, just to give you a visual, this is the police department side. We have the chief, deputy chief, patrol with our 3 shifts, and we have mental health clinician there, then our support services, which includes the community outreach specialist, the investigations unit, emergency communications dispatch, as I mentioned, and meters enforcement. This is a 29.5 FTE department. The 0.5 is, you'll see on the other side of the fire department, is a split on the administrative assistant. So here's some data on the police side for this year. We are averaging approximately 11,500 calls over a 3-year period. And the budget in this department supports obviously our people, 15 patrol officers, first line patrol supervisors, 3 detectives, 1 school resource officer, which we split, we share the cost with the school district, the chief and the deputy chief, and that half administrative assistant position, as I mentioned. Brooke also is funded here, and we have part-time officers as well. This budget also includes now that we've presented to you about $47,000 to reinstitute the Bees Patrol Program, which we heard as a priority of the City Council during our kickoff meeting. To get a little bit more granular into sort of the different budget sections of this department, this is the dispatch budget. You can see the revenue piece. We actually get 8% of the budget is funded through contracts. We provide dispatch services to other communities, and so that supports this budget as well. The remainder obviously supported by City of Barre. You can see there the calls for service that are, they're high. We had a little bit of a dip from last year, from 24 to 25, but this is pretty high volume for the dispatch center as well.
Ask a question. Have we seen an increase in revenue since we've upgraded dispatch units?
I know the revenue has gone up. It's not necessarily related to the units, but it's basically that we're offering more services to more departments. So Chief, I don't know if we added any more specific. I know the revenue goes up every year anyway because of the way there's escalators in the contract. But I don't know if I'd attribute it directly to the investments, but it's certainly, we're doing more contracts.
No, it's not directly attributed to the investments right now. It's based on, so the formula is, there's a 1.25% of the overall operating budget that goes out to all the communities that have our services. And then on top of that, there's a per call formula that's used for those that use more than 500 calls. So there are some volunteer fire departments that just pay the 1.25% of the overall budget in fees. And then there's some other agencies like Randolph PD, for instance, and the Sheriff's Department that pay that. And then on top of that, on top of that, they pay a per call fee for their amount over that was based on the prior year.
Yes, question. So The first three lines, 15 patrol officers, line patrol supervisor, then 3 detectives and 1 SRO. I guess my first question, do they overlap? Or do you actually have 15 patrol officers currently?
Currently, we do not.
How many do we have currently?
I currently have 3 vacancies on paper.
That means you have,
I currently have three vacancies, which would be attributed to the patrol division.
okay, back to the first question, do they overlap? I mean, is a detective a patrol, can they overlap, I guess?
Yes, they do. For instance, where it says 3 detectives, 2 of those vacancies are in the detectives division now. I only have 1 detective because patrol is the front line, obviously, necessary face of the agency that needs to be out answering all the calls.
I mean, I guess I would think other municipalities would do the same type of thing. This is common
Yes,
because everybody's, no matter what business you're in, you're lacking people.
correct. And we do have, for instance, on school vacations, the SRO will cover patrol, and oftentimes we have the detective pick up a shift in patrol as well.
And that also includes you. I mean,
Correct. Myself,
as
both
a
myself.
compliment, I see you doing patrol, walking the street. I've been to things where you were security, so
Correct. Myself and the deputy chief both pull shifts once in a while as
is
well.
that Officer Eastman? Is that,
Yes.
thank you.
Can I clarify? You said there's 15 patrol officers and you have 3 vacancies, but you only have,
Two are in detectives right now,
okay.
right?
But you have 3 overall vacancies.
3 overall
2 are-
vacancies.
2
and
are
that's-
detectives and
That's
1.
on paper.
Okay,
And the reason I say on paper is we have currently 3 in the academy.
Yep.
1 is deployed, so there's another 4.
okay. But you have 3 vacancies that span
Yes.
different
Correct.
departments. Okay. Can I ask one more question? On that first slide, the mental health clinician, I thought we didn't have a mental health
Yeah,
clinician.
we do not. I'm sorry, that was an oversight on that org chart. The funding, the Department of Health, ixnayed the funding on that.
Yeah, I remember that from last year. So we only have the outreach.
Community outreach specialist at this
Okay.
point, yes.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
The next piece is the meters parking enforcement. This is two individuals, John and Dee, make up this department. They obviously enforce our parking rules. You can see there the data on the tickets. Year to year, we had a reduction from 24 to 25. 3-year average still of around 3,000. And then this is the full, just to give you the full picture of the department's numbers. On the first column has the proposed, the second column has what was approved last year, and then the percentage change. As you can see, bottom line, we're keeping it pretty tidy here, within 5% growth. The proposed for the police department, which includes all the patrol, is almost, it's 2.9 million. On the dispatch side, we're at 844,000, and meters enforcement, just under 123,000 for total department-wide budget of $3.8 million. So this includes, as I mentioned, the increased $47,000 that we added to this budget for the Bees program. But we also took some savings here. We had about $28,000 in savings, which included some reductions in meter maintenance. So for example, when we sell the Seminary Street lot, we have less meters to maintain. So those are the types of things that we take into account in our budget deliberations. And so, we did offset a large portion of the increase that we added to fund the Bees program. So.
May I ask a brief question? We saw the number of tickets. I'm just curious what the dollar amount of that is in offsetting our meter folks.
I think the revenue on the ticket side is, can you pull that, Christina? You probably can pull it faster than me.
I have the 2025 sheet. I didn't print it out, unfortunately, but I do have it here on my phone. Do you want the dollar amount of those tickets? So out of the 2698 tickets that were issued, That equated to $42,411. Late fees added were $36,000.
Yeah.
For a grand total of $78,563,000. However, it's not as rosy as that. With the payments that came in, out of those tickets were $18,127, and with the late fee payments, it totaled $23,825. So historically, since I've been here, I've noticed that D generally writes about $40,000 to $50,000 worth of tickets, inclusive of what we do for the winter parking ban. But we're collecting about 24,000, all said and done.
Do we have a collection agency that takes
Well,
that?
we
Not
had
to interrupt.
we had actually discussed that at the Budget Congress, doing some collections on that. And we did mention about putting those into an actual collection agency.
Yeah, they get a percentage and they, yeah.
Yeah, and the other, I mean, I would say the other part of what meters enforcement helps to do is to enforce parking permits. So we were collecting a bunch of revenue, which I think is, if you could pull that number, Christina, if you have it handy, I couldn't get it on mine, but, so they, even though the tickets don't come close to offsetting the cost, they also help us make sure that we can enforce permit revenue, which is far larger.
Yeah, parking ticket revenue budget is 25,000.
Yeah. I mean, I got to be honest, the numbers that you cited, those numbers were much higher than I expected. So even recouping 2/3 of the money we spend on.
He's everywhere.
Oh,
She
look,
like- you
I
turn
play a
around
lot
and
of
she's
parking
there.
chicken in Montpelier, and I don't ever try in Barre. Not worth it. I guess I see, and you had said you'd already had a conversation about finding a better way to collect on some of these unpaid tickets. That feels like an untapped source of revenue. To me, even if we could get another third back again, that would be.
Yes.
How, I haven't gotten a ticket in a long time, so I don't, do you have to like send it in? Can you pay it online?
Yes.
Okay.
You can pay it online. You can bring it down with clerk's office.
I don't know, so.
What's your plate number?
I actually one time had those tickets in Barre City because I taught karate on Main Street and they parked my car in front of the karate studio and every day I'd get a ticket. But then they came to me and gave me a deal for a third of it and I paid it off. That's on record.
You're contributing to this gap.
Back to the bees. How many bees do you expect to have?
Good question.
So what I did with that, to arrive at that number, is step one on the entry-level scale. I took that number and I had it for 2 individuals working 16 hours a week for a total of 32 hours. So it would be 32 hours of coverage between 2 people. Coincidentally, we have 2 Norwich interns that are with us right now that are both interested in partaking in that.
And do you have bicycles?
We do have bicycles.
They're probably old bicycles.
They're old bicycles. Pre-flood, well, it was actually after the first flood, I had spoke about getting some bicycles. They had some bicycles in their bike business downstairs that got flooded.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with them, but they couldn't sell them. So they were going to fix up 2 of them, stripe them, do whatever they needed to do, and give them to us. I haven't revisited that yet, but I don't see it a problem.
But we won't be seeing you out on a tricycle then, right?
No, maybe a big wheel, but.
Thanks, Chief.
Yes.
So back to recouping potentially some of the ticket fees, would it be, could we offer a program where, if you have an outstanding ticket with the city of Barre, if you pay 50% of that ticket, we'll wipe it clean? And I say that as an opportunity to recoup any kind of funding as opposed to charging additional funding for collection agencies, and we may never see that at all.
Well, I know, number one, we already do have a collection agency that the city, if I'm not mistaken, that the city works with.
Okay.
So we do have a contract with them. I also know in our budget congress, we were speaking, when we were discussing this, there is an opportunity, Cheryl had mentioned that there's a position in her office that can start looking at some of those. But at the end of the day, that's a lot of money left on the table.
Certainly.
So to answer your question, I suppose, yeah, we could have like some sort of amnesty deal where you pay a portion of it. We did look at purchasing boots, but those were real expensive for the amount that you would need. And then you got to worry about damage.
And one of our efforts also to sort of alleviate or ameliorate this issue of not getting collections is our changes with the winter parking ban, which instead of doing tickets is now an administrative fee. So now everyone who is ticketed there, they won't get ticketed. They'll have to just pay the fee, so we won't lose any of that revenue. So that was another way to sort of get around that issue of non-payment.
Chief, do we have a database of, I mean, it's all electronic, correct? They're all
Yes.
entered into.
Yes, that spreadsheet that I brought up was from a program called Ticket Tracks.
Yeah.
Dee carries around a mini computer, and everything goes right into the system, so it's all tracked.
I mean, we used to send out bills if you had a delinquent ticket.
Yes, and I
know
think
I
that's
have.
where the late
I
fees.
must have some. No, because I get them, because the issue is this, we get a parking pass, but we get one. And sometimes I have my truck, sometimes I have my car. I have two vehicles. So if I have the truck, I get ticketed on a fairly frequent basis. If I could look it up, that database could somehow be made public, just to access, obviously, not to change, there may be folks who are in the same position I'm in.
I'm not sure if that's a
Paris,
feature or
too.
not.
I mean, we used to, but years ago, if you didn't pay your ticket on time, you'd pretty much immediately get a, notice in the mail. That doesn't happen anymore.
Chief Morris, who took all the money.
So text me the number tomorrow. I know I have some. I know I've got to have 4 or 5. So I've got to owe the city $100 or better.
We're getting there.
Slowly but surely.
No, but my point is I
Probably,
don't know
yeah.
if I don't think we're mailing, and certainly even if we
That I
just
don't
said,
know.
look, if
Again,
you've
that
got
used
an
to come out of the clerk's
05641
office.
zip code, if you owe us over $100, our policy is going to be to boot you. We have the boot. And so, here's a list. But again, I don't think we're really following up at this point. And I understand being short officers and personnel and the staff everywhere, that's sometimes difficult. But maybe something like saying, hey, we're going to give the public access to, even if it's a PDF, and you just print off the list and say, we're going to post this on the city webpage. And again, it's not shaming. It's just to make folks aware that we used to send notices out to you. We don't send them anymore. So if you've got 4 or 5 tickets, we're not reminding you that those went unpaid. Just a thought.
I also have something to add about amnesty. If you do an amnesty program, do it for a week, or 5 days or something, and just, publicize the heck out of it ahead of time and say to people, this is your window. And after that, we put up the.
So I think we double it after so many days, don't we? As it goes from,
Yeah, I'm not sure what the,
yeah.
But
What the late fee
and then
is.
you put the PDF out there with everybody on it who didn't
Get your
take
name off it
advantage
before
of
it
that.
goes.
And get your, yeah. So you put the carrot and the stick
Yeah.
out there, and, because it would be nice if we could get, some of that money in time to affect this year's budget, right?
Might buy a couple of bikes.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right.
Continue, Nicholas.
Just one question
Oh,
about-
sorry.
Oh, no,
sorry.
back to the next.
Yeah.
So is for the increases for the police department and the dispatch, can you explain what the increases are for? The
Yeah, most
4.5
of
and
it
the
is staffing, and most of it is contractual staffing, benefits, health.
Okay.
Pretty much that, and a small piece of the ad for the bees was 48, and we took about 28,000 off, so that's how, 20,000 is explained by that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, fire department. This is the org chart on the fire side. We have the chief, the deputy chief, the half administrative assistant. And then we have 4 shifts of 4 on the floor, and then the code enforcement side, which is the fire marshal and the building inspector. We also have a call force, which, how many, Chief, on the call force at this moment? Is it?
Really one.
It's 1, yeah. So very minimal call force. The call comparison, as you can see here, the vast majority of the calls that the department's responding to are on the EMS side, about 4 to 1. And so you can see there that that's been a pretty consistent ratio and also growing number of calls. The other piece is the overlapping calls have been increasing. An overlapping call is when 2 or more incidents occur at the same time, and it sort of dips into our minimum staffing and forces overtime call-ins.
Can I answer the question? Same question. Out of all the 16 firefighters, how many do we have currently?
We're full staff.
Full staff?
Yes.
A question I should have asked before, well, of all the calls, because you're both going to get calls for the same type of person who's causing problems or ODing, if you, I mean, is there like, what percentage of your calls go to those?
Between both sides of the house?
Well, I guess I would think there'd be more, well, not to the police versus you, but when someone overdoses, they call the fire station more than the police, or no?
We both go.
Dual response.
So is that a big factor in your calls? The small amount of people who take a good percentage of the calls? Because that's a money thing, again.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly, time of day, the weather, that all affects the volume of drug-related calls that we're seeing. But typically, when the PD is responding and we're responding, we both have our jobs that we're doing separate. So I don't know if you're asking if there could be.
Well, I guess, but do you have more calls because of drugs related than fire?
100%. EMS calls are 80% of our call volume. Okay. And our number 1 call for service for EMS-related calls are falls.
Are faults?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Could you elaborate a bit on that, Chief? You say
falls?
80% are false?
80% of our annual call volume is EMS. Mm-hmm. And of that 80%, our number 1 call reason is for falls, for ambulance calls.
Gotcha.
Is falls.
Falls.
Falls, not
Somebody
falls.
fell
Yes,
down.
yes.
Oh, falls.
Fell down.
Sorry, I apologize.
Yes. It's okay.
I thought it that way too at first.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Because on the chart, you have good intent and you also have faults. Faults. What are faults calls?
We report into a national database, and those are codes that they have pre-established. It's not something that we have put into place.
Okay.
So a false call might be responded with no incident found. Or, I'm sorry, what was the other one about the good intent? It may be a smoke detector activation from cooking.
Okay. One other question about this, and this is for the chief. Do you have a breakdown of calls like this too? Or is that harder to break down?
We have call types, yes.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, we have a complete call type. And I know Counselor Guston got it. I do an end-of-the-year review that has Part 1 offenses and Part 2 offenses. So for instance, if you want to know how many disorderly conduct cases we have, I could punch that in and extrapolate that data. There is a margin of error in that data because oftentimes it'll be reported as something, and not all cases will get that secondary call type. It goes back to the garbage in, garbage out. You really have to intricately go through and change everything. But yes, we can pull all those numbers out.
Could we get something like that? Yeah. That would be great. I'm just interested what those calls look like.
Yeah,
It's actually on our website. I published it. It's under the Trust and Transparency page that has all the statistics for the year. not every single call, but I did the part 1 and part 2 offenses.
I'm happily heading forward to council right now.
What are so these are, the majority of these calls are EMS. Do you know what the majority of your calls are?
The majority of my calls? It's everything. We have a lot of domestic disturbance calls. We have a lot of disorderly conduct calls. We have a lot of, quality, what I call quality of life calls.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
This is the code enforcement side review, their annual summary from 2025. Just Nick and Arthur doing a lot of work, keeping up with the inspections, the permit reviews. They continue to be busy after the floods. Feel like they're still busy from all of that, and just lot of boots on the ground with both of them. I think doing a great job of it.
Question?
Sure. Of course.
Do we know how many buildings, I know when we first did the flood recovery, the last time we'll say, we had a number of buildings that were red tagged and yellow tagged. And so do we have any other buildings left in the city that are red or yellow tagged that aren't tagged for green occupancy or fully ready to go?
I think the ones that were left were the landslides, which were all bought out at this point. Chief, can you think of any? I can't think of any that are related to flood recovery.
Like anything that's not FEMA buyout or?
Is there one on North?
There could be one or two where the owners have chosen not to correct the deficiencies.
Yeah.
So for example, not only have they not even raised the panel that was in the basement,
Right.
they haven't energized the panel and replaced the panel that was in the basement. So I think there's
a handful.
Yeah, I think there's at least two that I can
That are related.
Wondering
think
if
of.
the one that's by the old garage there in front of the, owned by Mr. Ayers, is that the one that had the structural issue? That might still be red tagged, but that's been,
That one, the old Salvation Army.
yeah, but they've been uninhabited for,
Then there's one up by Packard as
yeah.
well.
Yeah. Most of the ones that were inhabited and were red tagged ended up being the landslides, which are now,
Right.
all demolished, so.
Was there one still on River Street?
There are a couple on River Street that I believe are in the process of being bought out.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're red tagged or just abandoned, or not, just not inhabited at this point.
That's a good point.
Probably both. Yeah, because the red tag wouldn't just be a result of the flood. If it's not up to code, and these likely are not, then while we may not formally, physically red tag it, it's red tagged. And by the way, both Nick and Ms. Young, they do a great job. They really do under tough circumstances. And I know it's not always, fun. Nick did an inspection for Karen and I recently, and, just so professional, and it doesn't matter who you are. We found out the hard way that you can't always buy smoke detectors on Amazon, because if they're not approved for use in the United States, they look like exactly the same detector. You really wouldn't know. Doesn't say anywhere. So I was just mad because I got ripped off for $400 because I was dumb enough to buy. And, Nick was great. And he said, look, they probably work. They probably would detect a fire in CO in Canada, but, Tom, they're not approved. They got to have that little US.
Or in Canada.
And I said, okay, Nick, not a problem. And he said, but I'll give you 7 days. And it doesn't matter who you are, like Nick said, this is a life safety issue. You have 7 days to get them all replaced. And of course we did. And then the rest of the things that he noted in his report, like, a railing height or something like that. He said, look, it's 10 degrees below zero. Get that stuff. That stuff I'm not as concerned about, but the life safety stuff. So like I said, it doesn't matter who you are. And Nick does it politely, as does Arthur, politely, professionally. They're just a real credit to the city. And, I served with his dad here, and his dad would be very proud of him.
For sure. That office is operating, if we compared it to the state of Vermont with their assistant fire marshals, they're operating at a 20-year employee is their volumes that they're working at. And Nick's been in that office for 3 years and Arthur's 2, so. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about this? When you say that, I was, and this may just be an impression that I had, but I think that when Nick came in, he really took ownership of it and has been doing a really good job. I don't know who was doing it before or if it was really being done as thoroughly, but I wonder if we could have some data about since he started, because are we getting less problems because he's been doing it for so long? And I just would love to see those trends.
We can pull some trends. Sure.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yep.
Just so, I mean, if people are like, oh yeah, the inspector's coming and I gotta make sure I've got my stuff in order,
Yeah.
that's fantastic that he's doing his job. So that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is one budget section, so this, if you saw in the packet, there's one expense side, and it's all encompassed in one department. And the numbers here, moving from just under 3 million to 3.3 million. We have the vast majority of that you can see is increases in those personnel costs we talk about, the salary side, the FICA, the benefits, the payroll taxes, and we did do some offsets here to some cyclical purchases of safety equipment, right? So this is the benefit of, we want to get to a point, we talk about at the department head level of our budget's really helpful to have historical data, but it's also be nice to have a couple of out years to look at because we could show how some of those cycles move. We don't have to buy some of the equipment year after year. And so we recognize some of those savings this year, but as you can see, it's really on the human side that it's being driven, so. So then, based on what we shared with you tonight with these departments, we have some current budget numbers. The total general fund budget number that we're looking at now is $15.8 million. It's up slightly from last week, and it's about 7.5% up in so 7.37% increase in year-to-year expenses. If we go back to that metric that we talked about last week as a percentage of the amount to be raised by taxes to support the general fund budget, it's up to 7.5%, which is an increase from last week. I want to talk about that briefly. That also includes the Washington County taxes, which we looked at the numbers again last week, and there's no reason why we shouldn't, the Washington County taxes, we have to pay whether we want to or not. So that's why we are including that number. So an apples to apples from last week to the 6.6 would grow to 7.09, right? If we add the Washington County taxes, that's how we get to the 7.50. This also includes, on top of, rebuilding the recreation department, which was a council priority, on top of the bees, which was a council priority. These numbers also now include the budget requests from last week that the council heard from the Aldrich Library, BADC, and the Barre Partnership. So this really is sort of an all-in number at this point. And that's part of the reason why everything went up from last week.
So just to, if you don't mind, to give the opportunity, give the council an opportunity to offer feedback.
Yeah.
We had 3 reports from 3 different organizations, the Barre Partnership, BADC, and the Aldrich. I thought, first of all, in terms of their performance and how they enhance life in the city and the value that they bring, I really couldn't push back against anyone's budget and say, this is something that I wouldn't support. And I don't know if the rest of you, I just want to give the manager clear direction going forward, because he mentioned, well, I took their budget requests and I worked them into the budget because I didn't hear anything different from the council. So I just want to make sure that, or give the council the opportunity to offer that feedback if they feel differently. Yes.
I support all of those things. And I think when I'm reading through this particular presentation, it's I keep comparing it to the year that my husband and I put blown-in insulation in our walls. Like, it was a really, really important thing to do, but gosh, it's sometimes like, why am I spending this much money on this? But it's important. I luckily haven't seen either one of you at my house, and that's a good thing. But we have to have a full team of fire and police to keep our city safe. And so I think the things that the partnership and the library and the BADC are the things that people see, the recreation department, the bees, those are the things that people see. And that's unfortunately the other part that I think we have to spend money on. So I support all of those things.
If you'll indulge me in just speaking frankly, I mean, at times I have so much respect and value for our officers, our firefighters, our EMTs, I truly do. But I think about if we could just eliminate knuckleheads in the city, we'd probably save half in each department. And, that at times is, so I wholeheartedly agree with you that it is so important to have those folks who are here to help. And it's unfortunate that some people take advantage because, these are, and especially when you get overlapping calls, Chief, and I'm sure you could think easily of a couple dozen, 3 dozen examples of overlapping calls where one was really unnecessary and one was absolutely necessary. And, it's unfortunate that those things happen and cost us so much money. I mean, but it's the same in every urban municipality. If you look at, the cost of police and fire, if you look at public safety and you look at that, we're no different than anyone else. We're no different than Montpelier. We're no different than Burlington, than South Burlington. It's unfortunately a trend everywhere. Yes.
So I'm totally 100% behind police and fire. Pretty much everyone that we've spoke to. 2 issues I have. One is with a $91,000 paycheck to have a liaison for the homeless. Number 2 is the Aldrich Library. I think that some of the questions I asked weren't answered 100% honestly. I know they do have an apartment in East Barre that they're not renovating because they had a bad tenant, which would bring in probably $2,000 a month. I did hear from St. Monica's School that they had a problem. Maybe they don't now, but they did as far as students going there. Because, I mean, you talk to the owner of a Cornerstone and he'll tell you stories about what's going on over there. But I'm not blaming the people who run it. I'm just saying, I don't know their hours. I mean, libraries, we have computers and people don't go to the library like they used to. I think our library, and this is my opinion, is being used more for the less fortunate than it is for students to go study. And, I'm sure some people on this council probably don't like what I'm saying, but I'd like to know what Barre Town's doing tonight, because I think the Aldrich Library is going in front of them. And I've spoken to a couple of people on that committee. So unless I am proven wrong, I'd like to get more information on the Aldrich.
Yeah, but I think if you have questions, she invited you and said, if you have questions, if you need more information, you have an open invitation. I can't say I've been exactly where you are, but my job is to ask questions, and sometimes they're uncomfortable questions. And I've asked the questions at the library. I do go to the library. I actually have my card. I take books out. So for me, the library brings a lot of value. But I understand that you have questions. You probably have many of the same questions that I've asked before, and I'd encourage you to get the answers. And if you don't get the answers, that is a much different issue than asking the questions. There's no question that can't be asked when we're in budget deliberations, as long as it's done respectfully. I don't have an issue with any question any counselor may ask.
If I may?
Yes, of course.
I can answer one of those questions without any prevarication, 1,000% honestly. There is not an apartment above the York branch. I have personally.
No, it's in East Barre.
Yeah, that's the York branch, is the East Barre. I have personally physically been in those rooms. There is nothing there's no kitchen, there's no pieces of the floor. It is not and cannot be an apartment without tens of thousands of dollars worth of renovation that would not pay off for years and years and years to come, which would be a capital outlay that is just simply not.
I totally agree with you there. I just, again, some of the information I'm getting maybe, I guess, is I mean,
ask them.
I did pull up their, what, the 30, I'm sure, D30 form, that there's $7 million in the trust that they own for, there's 4 of them, I realize that. Endowment.
Which is a whole different thing. But I do want to say, without any slightest shred of doubt, there is not an apartment in the York Ranch. I have physically been in those rooms and walked around them. So.
I have not. But I'd encourage you to, we've got plenty of time, get your answers. And like I said, if you don't get an answer, that's a different issue. Yes?
I just would like to add that you have to get the answer, from somebody, get the answer that is unequivocally
it
true.
was the
and not
director who
answer. Right.
offered an invitation.
But, yeah, and indeed, and then she could come, but, if she tells you something, if you come back and say, well, she told me this and I don't believe it, that's another problem. And I think it's your problem, not her problem. So that's just the caveat that I'm making.
I guess, I'm part of the group that's gonna say yes or no on funded, so I just want to get, the bottom of, everybody wants more money,
Of course.
and I just want to make sure the money's being utilized in the proper way. And you cannot say without a doubt that, maybe right now because it's 20 below zero, but in the summertime, if you didn't know Barre and you looked at the library and saw what was going on, the activity there, you'd have a lot of this, same thoughts or doubts, and.
Personally, no, I wouldn't.
Well,
But that's.
I think this discussion might be one for another time.
I think so, too. But I'm just saying, don't lay things on other
My
people.
point is simply, I heard the director extend an invitation to you and said, look, if you want to come over and talk and ask more questions, I heard the invitation extended. If you take her up on it, like I said, ask any question respectfully and professionally you want to ask. That is our job.
Yeah.
If you don't get,
Well,
if you don't get a proper answer.
About what happened last week, so I just wanted to, have my concerns as well. Hey, if I'm proven 100% wrong, I'll be the first. I won't be the first time, but I just, I hear things too,
And you mentioned Tessa's position. I was actually at the State House today to introduce the Lieutenant Governor. He was kicking off his campaign, and so I took that opportunity to visit with a few folks and had some conversations. And I can't say I'm, ready to declare victory, but I'm feeling pretty good about how they feel. The more I explain the position and the more I explain that if the state were funding that position, what I would do if I were the state is I would require Tess to spend 2 days a week training people in other municipalities. And I
She's
said,
excellent.
take advantage of,
talk to
she's
her.
really good at what she does, and that has really piqued their interest. And they said, well, would you be willing to do that? And I said, well, the honest answer is no. I would like her all to Barre, but if it came down to you being able to fund the position and us having her service at least 3 days a week, I guess I'd have to be okay with that. And knowing Tess would probably still train people in other municipalities 8 days a week, 8 hours a day, 2 days a week, and still figure out a way to work those extra 2 days in some capacity in the city of Barre. So I'm feeling better about that position and our chances of getting that position funded by the state. Yes?
To your concern about the library, I would encourage you to go to the library because there's a lot of stuff going on there. I've walked in before waiting for a meeting to start and there's Lego Club happening. I've gone for a meeting and seen families coming and going with their books and their kids and they're happy.
I'd love to see that.
So I think you should just go sometime and spend some
will.
time there. I think you.
Well, I gotta have to, because I'm making accusations, and I gotta kind
You
of
should
back
go.
up and go
Yeah.
look, so.
I don't know that you made an accusation.
Well, that's
think
how I am. That's the reason I got elected, because I.
You simply
don't let
made a
things go.
statement and you're doing your job. It's okay.
Oh, I'm
Ask the
fine with
questions you need to ask, no matter how uncomfortable they might be. That's our job. Yes.
Could I ask one follow-up question? Why do we pay Washington County taxes? What does that go for?
The county, the court.
Courts.
The courts, the sheriff's department. So the county functions.
Right, but we've always said that we don't really function as a county. except for the court system, right?
Yeah, it's basically, it's an assessment for, it's our contribution towards
To
it.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I just didn't know what they were. Thank you.
Sure.
But don't get me, now you're going to get me started. No, I mean, why do some municipalities receive, the state police will respond to some, I mean, this is a huge unfairness, but it's never going to get corrected because there are, and I'm sure you'll correct me, Councilor Guston, 263 municipalities in Vermont?
252.
252, thank you. Because there are 252 municipalities in the state of Vermont. Most of them receive their protection directly from calling the Vermont State Police. And yet, as a state taxpayer, I'm paying for the state police, and yet I also get to pay, and no complaints, I also get to pay through my property taxes for a local police department. And I'm like, why don't you charge the ones who use the state police, not a big deal, but why don't you charge them something? Charge them some sort of per capita fee to respond, and then use that money to supplement the police departments and, to the public safety departments and municipalities that are going it on their own. So as long as we were getting off topic.
Not to get back on the library, but
that's always been a huge
Berlin
gripe.
and Orange are using the library at no cost.
They have to pay a fee.
No, they pay.
Yeah, but that fee was been in that, I looked into that, that fee has been in process for years.
Got another question to ask, I guess.
If a resident from Berlin comes to the Alders, they have to buy a library card essentially.
Yeah.
So
Right,
anyone
but
from,
they've done that with people from out of city for
yeah.
20, 30 years.
Okay.
So how much money do you really
Let's
think
get this
that
freight train
process-
back on the track,
No, they should be
okay?
able to pay what we're paying.
So continue, Nicholas.
Thank you, Mayor. So these are the numbers. Like I said, on the one side, the numbers went up. On the positive, it includes everything that we've heard, people are interested in. So there are pathways to that 5% target. I think, we're not, you look at us, we're not panicked. We think we can get there unless you're hiding it well. But, one really quick way, as Mayor alluded to it, is money from the state to fund the housing and homelessness liaison position. And that alone would get us back down to 6.57%. Fund balance allocations, our current budget assumes $100,000 already of the fund balance to help us keep the property tax rates low. Christina's finalizing we're getting our final audits ready. We will, by the next, when I'm back, and we dive deeper into these discussions in March, we will know what those numbers are, and we'll have a better sense of how much our fund balance can help support this.
And it's not looking horrible at this point, correct? Okay,
Yeah.
so
We are.
so glimmer of hope there, folks.
Yeah, really, and part of that is, we talked a little bit about this before, that we're getting, the FEMA reimbursements have come in. Our fund balance was depleted after the floods to basically prepay all the FEMA expenses. As FEMA money has come in, that has helped replenish the fund balance. The Chief mentioned he's got basically 3 rolling vacancies any given day, but we fully fund his staffing budget. That becomes basically a fund balance as well. So we think it'll be healthy. Now, there's risks obviously with using fund balance. That creates a cliff for the next year. But if we're trying to get down to this number, it's a way to do it. So just as an example, we have $100,000 assumed already. An additional about $175,000 would get us right under that 5% target, right? And then look, the other way, and I'm very clear, I'm not recommending this, but it's to revisit these investments in the budget. I don't think it's wise to do it. I think that I think the investments we're suggesting and that the council has indicated are priorities, by the way, are not just council priorities. There are things that we care about on the staff level as well. And so it's an option. We don't think we should take it. I think that there's better ways to do it. So again, no panic. There's a lot of time between now and when we warn this budget. And we'll have a little bit more information. Next week, we'll talk about Public Works. We'll hear about the budget survey results, and hopefully we'll get some really good direction about how to get you a proposal in March that is really reflective of closer to where we want to be. So that, I think, was it.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Yes.
So I asked last week about getting a more detailed kind of idea about what Tess has been doing, the activities, just because, there are a lot of questions regarding that, that she doesn't give us any reports. We get, a report from Nicholas. But for a position that we're paying almost $100,000 a year for, and we're, potentially, there's some, questions regarding that. It would be really helpful to have a detailed discussion if we're going to talk about including or not including that in our budget, about why, it's important to have her in our budget. Because it seems, there's folks that are very strongly for that. And I think I personally haven't seen, from this council seat a lot. And I'm not saying that she's not doing a lot, but it's just not something that we're, I don't want to say privy to, but it's not something that is reported on a lot, as opposed to a lot of the other things that we're constantly talking about.
Yeah, she's actually was here a couple weeks ago she's heading the situation table. So she was here, the last time she was here was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so, to talk about all the really great work she's doing with that. I know she did another report in the fall as we were sort of gearing up for the warming season. So she has been here quite a bit. I think part of what I like to do is a lot of Tess's hours are unusual. She covers a lot of the shifts at the warming center herself. So I try not to force her to come to the city council because she's often working evenings and strange hours. But as an example, what I shared today, the warming shelter has been going on for about 2 weeks straight, and she's been there just about every night. And she will be there the next couple of nights from Friday to Tuesday. So I'm more than happy to bring Tess in, but I just want to dispel this notion. She was here the most recently, and I'll figure out the date, was when we introduced her as the chair of the situation table, which is another really great task that she's taken on, and I think has been, I know fire and police are both represented on that, and I know that we've been.
Next question.
Yeah, I think both your deputies are your designees on that, and.
So you cross paths with her quite often, then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I missed
table
when
meets
we
weekly.
discussed she was the chair of the situation table.
It was like a month ago.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about that, but.
Yeah.
I do want to add too, we've been focusing a lot because we are in a 2-week stretch. I sent Tess home at 5 a.m. this morning after she'd been up all night so she could get 2 hours of sleep, because I was doing the 3 to 7 a.m. shift this morning. So we're deep in that right now. So we've been talking about it a lot, but we also saw Tess quite a lot over the summer and the spring, talking a lot about all of the parcel mapping of the city of Barre for housing, which is the other half of the position. She is the staff person to the housing task force that has been doing a lot of the work and outreach to get I can't believe I'm blanking on the AUDs. ADU, wow, sorry. The ADU, it's very warm in this room. The ADU projects underway and other things like that. So we saw her quite a bit over the summer and have seen her for several flood plan updates in regards to that, so.
Fair question, Counselor. So, I think if the city, we are hopeful. I remain hopeful that the state is going to see the value, as I do, in that position, and the value in continuing to fund it. But if they don't, or things change, or even if things don't change, I agree with you. It's a fair question. If we're going to be asked to fund what is essentially a new $100,000 position, I don't have any issue with you saying, Nicholas, I just need some face time. I need to know, I need to be able to tell my constituents, and I think we all need to be able to tell our constituents, well, this is why we're willing to invest this $100,000 in this new position. It's a fair question. So we'll look, we've got, my God, months yet.
Yeah.
Before we have to warn.
Yeah.
We'll get, this has been a tough stretch for Tess. Thank you to her, and thank you to everyone who's helping her out, because it has been, with the weather, it's just been a tough stretch, in terms of trying to keep people safe and housed here in the city, and not just here in the city, everywhere. But we will absolutely get her in to answer your questions. It's a fair one. Okay. Anything else? Counselor, would there, Hillgardner, would there be any objection? I had thrown that on your requests on 8E. Would you mind, Councilor Guston, if I flip them?
Not at all.
Because I'd like to be able to send the chief off sooner rather than later. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate
Have a
you.
good night.
So, Councilor Hillgarden.
Well, I sent around a draft interim statement about the Barry's policies, the policies that exist, and the review that we were talking about at last. And the reason for my sending this out is that I really do think that we don't always communicate well with our constituents. I've had a number of people asking me about what are the policies that Barry has about ICE, and I thought that your response to Danielle, I can't do it either. Arsarski.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I just say Danielle.
For Danielle O, it was really good. And I thought that needed to be shared more widely, which is one of the reasons why I'm proposing that we use an interim statement while the policies are under review.
I understand. So, Chief, you're familiar. I made sure you were copied on the email. You were as well, Mr. Manager. So, again, these are matters that I discussed. It's just a, different position.
Sure.
So these are, Nicholas and I probably tend to meet, more often than he does with other individual counselors. And so, and our discussions are wide ranging, and this one came up. So as I said to Danielle, I'm not aware of any municipality in Vermont that has ever executed a 287G agreement. I mean, it hasn't happened. And so when I talked to Nicholas about it, I said, look, I'd really like you and Brad to handle this. I know Danielle said, well, bring it to the, Diversity and Equity Committee. It's like, no, I'm not really comfortable doing that, because I don't know what direct impacts if we said, no, we're not going to ever execute a 287G memorandum of understanding, even though we've never had one in front of us. We don't have one in front of us. No one's ever asked us to execute one. I didn't know if there were other, when you start talking about federal agreements, the way they intertwine, the way they can affect other funding pockets or training opportunities. And not only that, but 287G is not limited to immigration. It can be for sex trafficking. It could be for child exploitation, So a 287G could be, if we executed such an agreement, could be much more narrow in scope. So I'm pushing back, but not really pushing back too hard. I'm just, again, when I penned that email, I certainly wouldn't have called it a temporary policy for the city. So I think it's probably best that we let the chief and the manager, and as I explained to Danielle, with everything we have going on in the manager's impending absence, I said, I really don't anticipate that coming before the council in April. And even if it did, it would have, if we were requested to execute 287G, it would have to be warned before the entire council. And then if that happened, and that's a really big if that actually passed council, then it needs to go to the governor in consultation with the attorney general, and the governor and attorney general have to sign off. So only because it's, and I want to say this really respectfully, but I almost feel like you're asking me to issue a policy on fire when nothing's burning. If we had an impending, and believe me, I am in contact, I can't say every day, that wouldn't be honest, at least 3 times a week, I am in contact with people in high places in terms of what is the level of ICE activity in Vermont. And I realize, look, we're all concerned. So everything I'm saying, if we learned anything from current events, everything I'm saying could get flipped on its head tomorrow. But I can tell you that all of us, the 3 of us, monitor federal activity, how many agents are deployed, is there a ramp up? So I just question the value in a temporary policy when the whole reason for having the chief and the manager look at it is because I don't want there to be unintended consequences to the city.
I entirely understand what you're saying. I just point out that what the statement says is where we are now. And it also says it's under review.
Right.
And that's the part that I think we need to communicate to people. I mean, those are the questions. It's like, what's the policy now? What's going to happen? And just being able to say, we're not in this now, and, even just the paragraph, Barry's not entered into and has never been asked to enter into, as you just reiterated, a 287G agreement with federal authorities, and any such agreement would require full city council review, proper public notice, and authorization from the state of Vermont, consistent with state law. That doesn't change anything. I mean, that is exactly what you just said. And what I'm asking is that we communicate that to people, because that, for one thing, it makes it easier for us as counselors to be able to point to stuff. For me as a counselor, when somebody calls me and says, what's the city's policy now? What's happening? If I can say, here's an interim statement, this is under review, and we'll keep you posted if things change or as things change.
Okay, I guess maybe I bristled a bit because you referred to it as a policy. And it's not really a policy, it's just a state of the city, so to speak. It's like, here's where we are, this is what.
Statement on immigration.
This is what Danielle asked, this is how I responded.
Yep.
And in good time, the chief and manager will, report back. I haven't, elevated it in terms of priority because there's nothing in front of us.
I understand that too.
Yeah.
I just, especially in this climate where there is an enormous amount of misinformation and disinformation and, stuff getting spread on social media, I just think it would be extremely helpful for the city to be clear about where we are and what the process is.
Listen, I have no objection, and if you want, I have no objection to that. If you or any other counselor wants to say, well, hey, this is where we're at. There was nothing. Chief, did you see anything in did the chief
He saw the
receive it?
statement,
Yeah, did you see anything in the statement that was inaccurate? No. I didn't. Okay.
Okay, so.
I would like to point out, I don't know who it actually went to, but the Vermont Criminal Justice Council sent a statement to the communities. That's what the document is called. And they allegedly sent it to all the communities. I don't know if they sent it to boards or whoever. That was in April of 2025. They just resent it again. I have a copy of that. It's also available on their website, along with the fair and impartial policing policy, which every law enforcement agency in the state had to adopt, which outlines what we can and cannot do. And that's available in 13 languages on their website, as well as they have a video for sign language. I have a copy of that here if anybody wants to see it.
I would like to.
And again, I don't know who they sent it to. I know I received a copy that said they sent it to all the communities.
Yeah.
So under that fair and impartial policing policy, which we have to abide by, we cannot enforce civil immigration. So we just can't. There are some, and it's in that statement to the communities, some things that we are allowed to do, which the mayor alluded to with sex trafficking and those sorts of things.
Yeah, so as far as that, I don't have any objection to that being held out as, hey, the state of the city. This is where we are. And listen, I understand it's hard not to watch recent events and not be horrified. So I understand the level of anxiety, but I also think it's important to react reasonably. And like I said, that's why I sent it to Nicholas and the chief is I don't know the ramifications if a municipality were to say, when there's not even one in front of us, under no uncertain terms would we ever execute a 287G or participate in Operation Stone Garden. I don't know if immediately, if there were training funds or other funds that we would be cut off from.
I'm not actually asking you to.
No,
to-
I didn't say you, I
Yeah,
didn't
I'm just
say you
asking
were.
you to
I'm
communicate.
just saying, these are the things that I considered when I
Yeah,
read
no, I
Danielle's letter.
understand.
I just wanted to react, to give the matter the seriousness it deserved and the consideration it deserved, but also react in a way that is in the best interest of the city. So if you want to hold that, I don't have any objection to that.
If I
Yeah.
may, I appreciate the letter. I appreciate that you put it into this. It makes me feel better just knowing that, this is what we've done. We have these policies in place already for fair and impartial policing, and this is where we are right now. Just because it makes me feel better knowing this than like wondering, like, I don't know what's going to happen, in the future. So this is helpful, even though, it might all change tomorrow, who knows? But this is where we are, and I think that could be helpful for a lot of people. Some level of comfort.
And like I said, I mean, everything that we do as counselors, or I do as mayor, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act. So even if you want to share my response to Danielle with whoever, I certainly wouldn't have any objection to that.
But one thing that what I'm sort of asking for is that the city put this on the website and that maybe Nicholas or you post it to Front Porch Forum so that it's clear that it's not one member of council trying to do an end run, or that this really comes officially from the city. This is officially where we are, and we are officially under review. And rather than having it be something that, having me forward your excellent response to Danielle, to, the 7 people who've asked me about. I think there's some real value in the city having some transparency, even if all we're saying is, this is what's enforced now.
Well, nothing is enforced now.
I mean,
There's
but this
nothing, we haven't been asked to enforce,
is
nor could we enforce federal immigration laws. I don't think,
this is the
I don't think the
state of
chief would want to put
play.
himself in that position.
No, but on the same token, if we had an immigrant commit a horrendous act in Barre and we have them in jail, I want to feel comfortable that when they come, ICE is going to you're going to hand them over to ICE.
That's not going to happen. We can't enforce immigration.
No, if he doesn't, if he does a horrendous act in Barre, murder, okay, and we arrest him, he's in jail, and ICE comes because they're federal, and they say, well, he's on the list, we know what he did here, hand him over. I mean, I don't want to be a sanctuary city.
Well, Council, there's a lot of, I'm not putting, there's a lot of
There's so many
hypotheticals.
things.
The situation you just described is so far above my pay grade.
Well, that agent on the
I simply have to say, I
Canadian
don't
border,
know.
then he thought that too.
I don't know, once you are charged with a crime on the state level, whether the feds can come and take jurisdiction. Like I said, that is so far above my pay grade, I don't know.
That's why I'm thinking this is getting out of hand.
Yeah,
with
so I don't,
state anything.
but I have no objection to, to issuing that statement, as long as it's clear that we're not taking a stand at all because we haven't been asked to. And if we were to assist in any way with civil immigration, we would find ourselves on the other side of Vermont statute. And we would subject our chief and participating officers to arrest. So that ain't gonna happen. Yes.
I just want to sort of clarify the conversation. As we've discussed, this simply describes the sort of state of current play.
Yeah.
It does not commit us to any specific action in the future, other than the very last thing, saying that we are continuing to review and monitor. And I think it's a perfectly fair thing to issue on the city's website from the city, because there are a lot of questions and a lot of people are wondering things right now. And this is a very straightforward, simple statement of, this is how it works right now, folks. This is, it may not work this way in the future. There are things that may happen in the future, but right now, this is the sort of interlocking pieces of what is already happening in Barre City. So it purely simply states what does that. I agree that we don't want to make any blanket statements about what might happen in the future at this point. But I think this is a perfectly straightforward thing to put up on the city's website under announcements or something like that.
Yeah. Any objections, council? Okay. then we'll get, why don't you make any edits that you care to make? Would that be okay with you? Going to allow the manager and the chief latitude to make any edits that they wish to
Absolutely,
make?
that's why
And we'll get it pushed up
Yeah,
on the
that's why I made
webpage.
sure I've said draft, because it,
Okay, Council Guston, all yours.
No, we have to do those.
What's that?
Mayor, we haven't done the warrants yet.
Oh, that's right, too.
I'm
Oh, I was gonna
happy
do
to
those
continue
last-
to wait
Has
while we do
everyone reviewed
those.
them, the warrants? Okay, council, we'll move on.
I'll make a copy.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to get a copy of that.
I'll make a copy and get it out to you.
excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, chief.
So
Thank you,
next up
Chief.
are the warrants. We will be approving the week of 2/4/26. Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Thank you. Second, please.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed,
And I'm abstaining.
your abstention is noted. Thank you very much. Okay, council, we are at the flood resiliency plan update. Councilor Guston.
Yes, I'm stalling while I get my packet up. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to stall for a few more minutes while the manager gets the presentation up.
ready.
We are continuing our march through updates to the flood resiliency plan. Tonight, we're going to, and I want to clarify a couple of things about when we say we're going to talk about the North End master plan. First of all, this is not a true master plan. A true master plan is a very complicated, very long thing. Think of master plan as a sort of general aspirational idea. What we should discuss tonight is what we want in a statement of our hopes for the North End, I think, is to put it as broadly as possible. This is not, in the technical planning sense, a true master plan. We are using that just to sort of signify that we want to think big about the North End and that we want to put a lot of the ideas that we have been discussing as a council for some time now, that residents have shared with us at multiple opportunities, that have made into other pieces of the flood resiliency plan. So what we're looking at tonight is to sort of have a very broad brainstorming kind of conversation about what we might want that to look like and how we might get there. This will be a longer process, but we are sort of kicking off the idea of how do we gather what we've already done? How do we seek out what we still need to do with council? Did I vamp enough?
I think you did it.
All
I think
right.
you covered all of it. So I don't know what else there's for me to say, but we'll go through it. So this is just what does the plan say, which Councilor Guston covered. The North End is one of the hardest hit areas in both 23 and 24. And so we were, the idea here was to look for resident-centered, resident input plan that would guide sort of the vision for the area in the future. And here, as Councilor Guston mentioned, the idea tonight is to create a series of shared ideas with consensus focused on that neighborhood. We've done quite a bit of North End engagement since the 2023 flood. And actually not just North End, but just citywide as well. We had the flood recovery town hall at the Barre Opera House, the part of the Barre Up process with VCRD. We had ward-based neighborhood meetings. We had a specific North End forum right before we were working on the CDBGDR applications. This is a test thing. Ran a resident survey for North End, for flood recovery citywide. And that was, we brought that back to the council as well. So that was a way for residents to give us information who didn't want to attend meetings. And we've had a couple of shots at some money to implement versions of that vision. And that vision has ranged from, there's been sort of many iterations of it so far. It started with the governor's visit to the city council, where he sort of laid out a plan. And, I think conceptually speaking, right, not speaking to the details, but the governor's plan, conceptually talked about floodplain restoration through buyouts and dense housing, right? And so while people could disagree specifically about where the dense housing was or was not, I think generally speaking, those two concepts made sense, right? That we want to build floodplain there, and we want to add housing and preserve housing. We've had a couple of shots to do that. One was through the EPA Communities Change Grant. One was through CDBG-DR Round 1, and now we're going through Round 2. We haven't been successful, and as I mentioned earlier today, Round 2 just got a little bit tougher. But that's been part of the challenge in this neighborhood, which is that part of that vision was hamstrung really by some of the rules around federal money, and that's Exhibit 1 was FEMA, which really precluded us from advancing any buyouts because it wouldn't have allowed for that second plank of the broader vision of dense urban housing, right? We would have given up all that land. So had a couple of shots at it. We've certainly talked a lot about what a good vision might be. The other piece, sort of to supplement what Councilor Gustin said, is that there's a lot to build on. And this index here actually builds on something that I know Councilor Gustin and the mayor and maybe somebody else on the council worked on, TESS, the long-term redevelopment plan that was done for the CDBG-DR Round 1 application. So I took this index directly from that because they did a good job of sort of compiling all these plans that exist today that we wouldn't have to sort of start from scratch. And I would argue we would want to make sure are aligned, right? So anything that sort of comes out of this process would really be building on a lot of great work that's already taken place. And then, yeah, just in terms of proposed next steps, certainly, even though we've done engagement, it's always good to have a pulse on what people are thinking in the moment. Those visions and goals can change. Certainly, they might change, frankly, if we're not successful in Round 2, right? That would be another opportunity, unfortunately, if we had it, to get a sense of the community, because then we would have had a couple of shots at money without success, and we really need to maybe pivot at that point. As I mentioned earlier, reviewing existing plans, there's a lot to build off of. We want to, not only is there a lot of material already, but we want to make sure that it's aligned with other plans that we have. And then, agreeing to a sort of a general process for how we might get to a final document, right? Is it surveys? Is it, what kind of engagement here at the council level? And what does that, forums after the fact, forums for people to react to documents. So just really open-ended tonight. This had been a part of the plan that we hadn't really put a lot of meat on the bones for. So curious to hear what a good way to get to this next step might be.
I would just add too, it doesn't have to be a standalone document as the manager just listed. We have a lot of plans. Yeah. We have a lot of studies. It could be a new appendix to the redevelopment plan. It could be a new appendix to the flood resiliency plan. What the goal, I think, the hope for putting this in the flood plan was to have one central place where we pull together a lot of the hopes and dreams and ideas and brainstorming that we have done about the North End and sort of put it all together so that when we are looking at future grant opportunities beyond the CDBG-DR, the next hazard mitigation, we can go back and say, here's our list for the North End. Here's our wish list for the North End. It's in one place. We've all come together on it instead of sort of just sharing this nebulous vision, which I think is where we've been so far, which has been going okay so far, but we're at the point where we need to get it a little bit more together. So with
And that was it. I think that was it.
And also, what can we do now? I mean, obviously, we are going to be dependent on grant funds to move significantly forward. But there are things we can do now. I mean, there are areas of the North End where there's still flood debris. It's still there. So, there are other things that we can do as a city, as a neighborhood, to at least make things better in the short term. We may not have the money as a city to build housing on our own, but we certainly have resources, we have trucks. So, again, we have to be careful about using the human resources that we have, but we could have a green up day where we tell everybody, look, we want everybody on the North End. We appreciate that you green up our city probably every week, but this particular weekend, we want you on the North End. We want the North End to look absolutely as good as it can possibly look, and the city could provide some resources. And then going forward, let's face it, we react to the grants that are out there. We all know, and I'm sure the neighborhood knows, well, we certainly know what the priorities are. The priorities there are housing and recovery. But without grant funds, but if grant funds come along and they say, well, we're just doing the creation of green space. We're not doing housing yet. Well, then we may have to flip-flop a little bit and create some green space waiting for the housing funds to materialize. So, but I like what you suggested here, Counselor. I think we should absolutely do that. But like you said, it doesn't have to be we have a lot of plans. But at least, it could just be a brief statement to say, this is what we're going to do in the short term with the resources that we do have. Mm-hmm. We're going to direct some of those resources in this way towards the north end. And we're going to make sure that we're talking about the north end and we're talking about activities in the north end, and we're doing that at least once a week at a council level. So like the flood mitigation plan, we don't let this fall off our, we don't let this fall off our radar. And then, again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but as far as the rest of it goes, we are at the mercy of available federal and state funding. And anytime I use the word federal funding these days, it doesn't give me a good feeling. Yes.
Two things. I wonder, I know it says in here, propose next steps, develop a public engagement process to identify resident priorities. I went on the walk with the Friends of the Winooski last year, and I was talking to a woman, and she said there's still, a really big pile of dirt still on my street. And I wonder if there are other things like that we could, work, after the winter to clean up and take care of for people. Or if there's like bulky trash day for North End residents because they just keep like cleaning things out and needing a special event for them to be able to get rid of their stuff. I'm just spitballing here. But that kind of stuff to help people who've been more impacted than others, so.
Absolutely.
It just, this time of year, plus the weather, it's kind of
a little tough.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting.
That's why I'm looking forward, for a lot of reasons, that's why I'm looking forward to May, for a lot of reasons.
That's very optimistic.
So that we can, once the snow clears, we can start, and maybe one of our off Tuesdays, one of us, how many of us, 7? I got a vehicle we could probably squeeze 7 in. And seriously, on an off Tuesday, we take a little ride around the north end. We stop, we get out, we walk the street a little bit, talk to residents, and quite frankly, look for those piles of trash or piles of dirt to say, you know what? If we each called 2 or 3 of our friends, we could have this done on a Saturday morning. Not a big deal.
So Jeff and I and Johnny Badeau did that when we were campaigning. We went around and Johnny would do it again, and I have a truck at Ruthier's, and it's kind of funny because I think we only had one person actually come out and thank us. Yeah. But there's plenty of that to work with. Yeah, and that'd be a good start. And I'm sure Johnny would be more than happy to, because he has that big trailer that goes behind his truck.
It's one thing about Barre, one thing that's always made me proud. It's never hard to get volunteers in Barre. Right. You don't always get 50, but it's not hard to get 10 or 12. Really, all you have to do is ask. Yes.
Well, and I think green up, clean up is one piece, but I think there might be like a true green up. Like, is there some like landscaping help that we can provide? Because some of the what we're seeing as flood debris is just lawns that have been scoured and haven't been replanted, or landscape pieces that just haven't been. I know I still drive down Berlin Street in that central place. It's so hard to get all the silt out of that. Like, can we like get the silt out of that kind of getting it out, but also re-greening it and reaching out to some of our folks who, like, you don't want me on the front lines of that, but I will haul mud anywhere. There we go, great. I only just added my first house plant, so I'm hanging in there with it. But we can go and offer that kind of help, and for some people, it may be a really daunting task to reseed their lawn, but a couple of people could do it on a Saturday afternoon. There could be that kind of immediate work, but I appreciate the characterization of what's short-term versus what's long-term and waiting for grant opportunities. I think that's a useful split.
Just to show that we're coming together, not because someone's from Ward 3, someone's from Ward 1. No, we're coming together as a city councilors to help. Because if something happened in one of the other wards, I mean, you know, I'd be more than happy to help out in that ward. So I think that will show Barre needs to come together, and North End is taking it. I grew up there, and I mean, it was always rough and tough, but it's taking it pretty hard.
Yes.
If I may sort of, as I've been listening and when we've been talking and thinking about it, I've been thinking of sort of 3 buckets of longer term work. I think there's a lot of short term work, and if you have any ideas, I'd be happy to start collecting them and putting them together on a list. But we're thinking about in 3 big buckets: infrastructure, which is some of the projects we've already talked about, the Willie Street Bridge, the Harrington Ave trash rack, and a couple of other things. Housing, which encompasses both housing repair, elevation, and also what we talked about, which is the higher density rebuilding of housing. And then the third is green space, which functions both as community space and functions as floodplain. So those, to me, those have been the 3 buckets as we've been thinking and talking specifically about the North End, that if we can get the balance and the work in those right, we'll make a significant investment. We have been trying to do them in big pieces. We're not using the word discouraged, but I've been a little frustrated with the ways that we have, because I noticed we also applied to hazard mitigation grants for the North End. We've been continually declined for funding for the North End, and it's been frustrating that one of our, oldest and most close-knit neighborhoods is sort of, people don't want to help it out. There doesn't seem to be the funding to want to help it out. I will just say that. So I think the more that we talk about it as a council, and the more that we keep making that argument, the better as well. So anyway, that kind of meandered, and I apologize, but those are the 3 buckets I was thinking about. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I think there also has to be an advocacy piece for this, in which we have to keep saying to funders, you can't just say, build greenfield new housing. I get it. That is crucial and important, and we are pursuing that with all of our might as well. But we have to be able to help people stay in the neighborhoods in which they are, and stay in the parts of the city where they are, because otherwise, where are we even going?
Especially when Bernie Sanders sits on a porch in the North End and promises that help's coming.
I had that conversation.
Understood.
Yeah.
Anything else, Council? Okay, under upcoming business, we've got some items coming up on the agenda that individual councilors had requested. I got to tell you, in February, for me, it's between tax season, the legislature, and the city council, it's about all I can do to keep up. Like I said, we're, believe it or not, we're in February already. I mean, January just went by in a blink, and soon we're going to be at crossover day. And yeah, really, Counselor. Things happen quickly. I feel good about, the legislative wants that we expressed to our lobbyists. I feel good about the direction the state is moving in with regard to that. Like I said, I feel good about the state funding Tessa's position because, and obviously we have to share. So we're going to have to give something up, I suspect, to get that position funded. But I think I'm okay with that, because anytime I get the opportunity to work with people in other municipalities, even though they may call me and say, hey, Tom, can you come over and help me out with this? I always bring something back. I always learn something myself. So, and plus it's the neighborly thing to do. So, other than that, Councilor, if there's anything specific you'd like to see on the agenda, let me know. Yes?
I have a couple things. I wonder, because we didn't have as Many people respond to the survey. Would it be helpful to have ward meetings?
Hey, funny you should ask.
May I? Counselor Bergeron and I, this is a useful moment to announce, are going to have a ward meeting at the Aldrich Library on Saturday for Ward 2 residents who want to talk to us about the budget.
Nice.
So we're going to put that on Front Porch Forum and everything like that. Counselor Bergeron has been very patient with my scheduling.
Yeah, can I digress for a moment?
So-
What do you all make of that?
Of the,
Like apathy? I mean, I was really
The
surprised.
surveys?
oh.
Yeah,
it's
just
a
the
lot going on.
survey, just, are people disengaging? Are they, it really puzzled me because I thought, you know, we had advertised it, we had 300 and change last year, and we didn't even hit 2.
I agree. It's,
I just don't, you know, and I don't know. I mean, in a way, and the reason I wonder, it's like, okay, do we need to work harder engaging people? Because are people getting frustrated? Are people getting scared? Are people getting to the point where they're just like, you know, I don't have any
to
hope
worry about their
anymore?
oil tank.
I'll add just a little more
Yeah.
nuance to it, because I did look at I've started to compile the budget survey results, and 75% of respondents said that the quantity and quality of communication is good. So it's I don't know what.
Self-selecting group.
I wish I had an answer, but,
Well, and I don't think it's that people are like, oh no, these guys are doing a great job. Everything's awesome.
I mean,
Well,
maybe it is.
what roads are you driving on, dude?
Fair.
I think a lot of it is that people are very busy and people are also very active on social media. And I thankfully haven't been on social media in about 6 months. But I do hear a lot from folks that they complain a lot on social media and not necessarily in the right mediums. And they feel that once they get that off their chest, then it's all well and good until something else arises. And a lot of the folks, they're not thinking budget. I mean, they're thinking about paving, thinking about potholes.
Their oil tank.
But people are so busy trying to just put food on the table, trying to heat their houses, deal with their families, that it's difficult in order to coax them to do a survey unless we're at their door saying, hey, do you want to do this? And even then, they're probably busy trying to feed their family or.
Maybe you do it at the ward meetings.
That's what I'm saying,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You could
Right.
ask the questions that we were sort of
Yeah,
asking.
or hand it out when you get in there. It's okay, while we're here talking, could you
mean,
film
you
it?
can-
Plan.
Do it on your phone.
I know.
So if they were at a meeting and you just said, look, you know, surprise, I am going to listen to you in a minute, but first, we're going to go through the budget survey. Everyone pull out their phones, go to this link. You know, I really don't know. Like I said, it's like what, like Nicholas, personally, I think the level of communication, the frequency, the quality of it, I think honestly that we've raised that bar. I think the regroup program has been fabulous, and I think we've actually, we've raised the bar. I mean, we communicate through so many different forms of media.
I think when you think about the board meeting that we had, I think there's a different group of people who will come to a board meeting that might not do a survey. So you might just get some different
No, hey,
perspectives.
listen, I would prefer to sit in front of someone and answer their questions than, than feel like I'm just pushing stuff out to them. Yeah, yes.
So with that, I know you just said it's closed. Can you, maybe as a preface to asking my question, can you remind us why we picked the closing date we did and like what that would upset the apple cart for?
It was to make sure that we had enough time from when it closed to the next meeting to compile all the results and the answers. It's a very, it basically spits out a very unusable spreadsheet that we have to then sort and categorize. So it was just to give enough time to make sure that we could present the results by February 10th.
Are we still committed to presenting the results on February 10th?
We can certainly delay it. That'd be fine. I mean, I think I'm close to compiling much of the data, so I could certainly present a preliminary and we could reopen it. That would be another option.
How much more work does that?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're going to be, you'll be on leave
Yep.
at a certain point, and, and again, I love getting the communication, but I also believe that, okay, when you need to respect it, when someone is on leave, and I'm not going to say to Nicholas, well, get up earlier, get up at 5 every morning for the next, for the first week of your leave when you're trying to spend time with family and compile these numbers. Again, we did a great job communicating it. So I'm not, I wouldn't be, I wish people had just gotten it right the first time, but.
But Amanda, you could just ask the questions.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking sort of two simultaneous things. One is that what Jeff and I had talked about is just asking the questions in the meeting, but also I am wondering about the increased workload of possibly doing a separate parallel, exactly the same survey that is just the ward meetings. So that wouldn't interrupt the numbers gathering you've already done and would just be an add to.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I wonder if truly just hitting duplicate on the survey and then giving us a link that if other counselors wanted to do board meetings as well, we could gather, and then you have an in-person data set that is just parallel.
Oh, that's fine.
That might not increase the workload, but might get at some of the same.
And tell me again, when was your ward meeting?
Saturday at
Saturday.
1 p.m. at the Aldrich Library.
Kill two birds.
Yeah, there you go.
The last time we were going to do it, we had to reschedule because there was a genealogy program in the morning. So.
Counselor Ruthier, roundtable.
Oh, I'm all set tonight. I won't be here next week. I was supposed to be in Florida right now, but I postponed it to next Wednesday. Oh, actually, I will be here. So I retract that statement.
So close.
Okay. Holy cow, I will be here. Well, you can, you ever heard of Zoom?
I know.
It works.
I like
It
being
works in
present.
all 50 states. It's awesome.
Yeah. Week after.
Counselor Spalding.
I have nothing, thank you.
Counselor Bergeron?
I attended a meeting with the Barre Basketball Tournament Committee last week. Nick Copping and Keith Cushman came in. Nick's working on a program that started in Massachusetts after the nightclub fire. So people that are volunteering to work the tournament games are going to be taught crowd management. And he's using the basketball tournament as kind of a model. And then he's going to reach out to other big events that rent the auditorium or the BOR and get, volunteers from those groups to take this course too. So Nick's doing a good job.
He's
That's a good
he's
idea.
doing
That's
a
excellent.
great job. Counselor Guston.
I just want to briefly speak to the how awesome neighbors are. My furnace spent all last week trying to die while I was 1,000 miles away. And my amazing next door neighbor was on the phone with me constantly and going into my house and rebooting it and all rewiring my thermostat, which failed. And anyway, it was an odyssey, but I am grateful that there are good people in Barre City.
There definitely are good people.
Counselor Hillgardner.
I know we've talked a lot about the warming center, the overnight warming center, but I just want to, Ernie and I took a shift. We took one of the 11 o'clock to 3 a.m. shift one time last week. And I just want to say it's really wonderful to be able to help people out. We're doing another one that same 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. because it's not a very popular shift. We're doing that also on Sunday, but they've been running end to end for a long time. And so if you can help, I really do strongly recommend it. It's pretty uplifting.
Thank you. Counselor Deering.
As you all should see in front of you, I've dropped you 2 invitations from our Barre school system. The first one is our 2nd annual BC EMS Talent Show. That's going to be on Thursday. Last year, Adam Jacobs was running that. This year, Garrett has taken that over. And then they're going to be raising funds to support the school field trips fund and also the People's Health and Wellness Clinic. So that should be a really amazing time. That's on Thursday at 5:30 at Barre City School. And then there's also the annual Barre Unified Union Art Show. That's going to be February 17th is the opening reception that you're all invited to. It's 5:30 to 6:30. I really encourage you all to go and check that stuff out. So with that, I will pass.
Point out to Council Ruthier that it'll be at the Aldrich Public Library.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you very
Your
much.
silent auction that are you done? I'd donate a quick lube or something for that. You'll let us stop by.
I'll talk to you about it tomorrow, and we'll link up with the PTO about that.
Okay.
And just to follow up on Councilor Hillgardner's remarks, there are a lot of ways you don't even have to be there physically. There are 15 people who need to be fed, different meals, different times. So even if you're not able to be there physically and you can help feed 15 people, that's certainly appreciated as well. So with that, council, and lastly, I'll be meeting with the executive director of youth bills. So I'm going to pitch a couple of ideas I have for the north end to him and see if maybe they could participate in that as well. So with that, council, a motion, do you need a motion to adjourn would be in order?
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
We're all ready to go.
Aye. Those opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Good night.